Hey guys, welcome to Flat Top King. Hey, today is all about Knives 101. It's everything I know about knives I want to share with you guys, the absolute bare basics that are going to help you pick out a great knife. So anytime we do an informal or formal video like this, it basically comes about because we get so many questions about a certain topic. And I just feel like it's always great to basically reach out to you guys with the knowledge that I have or don't have. And I've been open and honest about a lot of topics, especially if we reach out to me and say, hey, what about this? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. But I do know a little bit about knives. So we get a lot of people asking about what kind of knife should I buy. I'm looking to get in a knife game. I'd love to buy a knife set for my daughter or son-in-law, all kinds of questions. All right, up first, we're just gonna go over a broad idea of what a knife looks like, okay? Then we'll change course and I'll show you, okay? This is my knife block. I've actually upgraded it. This is one thing I'll say about knives. You don't have to buy the whole set all at once, okay? Some people out there can afford the whole set at once. Other people might like to go piece by piece. Some people want every single piece in their knife set to match. I struggle with that as well. I like the idea of the matching, but there's also things that I can't get in the matching set. So then you have to go to another brand or idea. Looking back with my experience with knives, the matching set honestly doesn't matter. If I had to do it all over again, I'd have picked out the best knife for me with the comfort. We'll go over that. The comfort, the cost, and everything based on my preferences, not that one specific brand category preference, okay? So that's the biggest thing I can say is whatever you want to do about the knife set, that's something you guys don't have to deal with, okay? We're just going to go over some of the basics really quick. So let me get these out here. All right, really quick is basically my go-to set of knives, okay? We kind of got them broken up in categories, just kind of skim over it, because if you're starting out on knives, you don't need every single knife. There's certain knives I would recommend, and then from there, the more you get comfortable, the more you save up your money, or the more that you want to buy the whole set, you'll start to understand why, okay? These are chef's knives. You're obviously your most common knife in the world, no matter what brand, no matter what nationality. A good chef's knife starts right there, okay? Second is a boning / fillet knife, okay? These are actually from Pit Boss. I haven't even had a chance to use them yet. They're so new, but it just goes to show you, this is from Rapala. This is one that I had for absolute years. My dad has a brown handled one, 2 of them, that he's had from his grandfather that I'm gonna get when my dad passes, and that's gonna be my crown jewel. So the one thing about knives is I can tell you, as long as you take care of them, and you buy a good enough set or a good enough piece, they can last generations just like cast iron. You'll notice with cast iron, you can buy one for $250, you can buy one for $30. It's about the maintenance and care that's going to carry on from generations, okay? With the fillet knife, that's probably number 2 to number 3 on the list, depending on what kind of person you are. If you're an outdoorsman, you know how important a fillet knife is. For the common cook at home that goes to the grocery store often, a lot of times your butcher can handle a common fillet knife option for you inside the grocery store without you using it. You know, you might not need to fillet a fish from scratch or take the skin off a salmon. Some things can be done for you at the grocery store. So all this is basically, how would we say, like griddles, right? You got your pros and your cons. How are you going to use this vessel because you're the one buying it, okay? Over here is our slicing knives. I should put this one right here like this, okay? These are a little bit meatier. They're not as flimsy. They've got a thicker backbone. We can get all to that. This one is a lot thicker knife than this one, although it does the same job. You got your serrated bread knife, which I use very rarely. And then you've got a big slicer, okay? It's very uniform. It's got a straight backbone. It's heavy duty. All right, so with that knife, it's commonly known as like a brisket knife or a slicer. You can think about prime rib. You can think about how wide a brisket is. There's a lot of pieces of meat that when you have it that big, you want the right tool for the job. And this is one of them.
Like a machete?
That's good. All right, here we have a meat cleaver. This is not part of the set. We can get to that. Steak knives, they come in many different options. I'm gonna go over my favorites. And then I would say this is where the fillet knife and the chef's knives kind of all intermingle, okay? These are my paring knives. I have my favorite. I have one that I absolutely just do not like at all, but it came with the set, and we'll go on from there, okay? The one thing that I think is missing in a lot of toolboxes that I see are a good pair, and I mean a good pair. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a pair. This actually came with a set. A good set of kitchen shears. Everything from taking the backbone out of a chicken, being a little bit more aggressive. These are not your household letter opener shears, okay? These do a very, very, very effective job, and I do not think they get the notoriety or the awareness in a knife block or a knife collection that they should. They're very, very, very useful. It protects your blade going through chicken bones, turkey bones when we spatchcock our turkeys and chickens, going through rib bones, you name it, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is how I'm gonna start off this video. I'm just gonna flat out get to the nuts and bolts because I don't know everything about knives. But I'm gonna teach you what I know, how to handle a knife, how to hold a knife, what to look out for a knife, and we're gonna go from there. Just see how the video turns out, okay? So I'm gonna set all these knives to the side, okay?
And it is, you might wanna say too, like a lot of these Hinkles 4-star we have had for
before we got married.
Since before we got married, so over 20 years.
I registered for them. Yes, I registered for them. The kitchen stuff I registered for. Obviously, she did not.
I did not.
If you follow
on our
along,
wedding registry, I had nothing to do with the kitchen.
Or cleaning stuff. I registered for vacuums too. That's
that is true.
All right. So when we're talking about steak knives, there's a theory out there that I stand by. It's just what you kind of attach your beliefs in. I like a straight bladed steak knife. The reason is because there's some theories out there that when you get to a serrated style steak knife, it actually is more aggressive when you do the microscopic version of what it looks like when it tears into meat, i.e. steak, chicken, pork, and you actually lose more moisture with a serrated knife than you do an actual straight edge knife, okay? So that was a big key for me. When it comes to paring knives, I find that this is probably number 2 on the most important list, okay? The functionality, the feel in your hand, the overall usefulness of a great paring knife, what you can accomplish with a paring knife is just basically universal. There's not many things you cannot do with it, okay? You can see that that I personally have. I didn't go out there and buy anything else that I don't have for this video. I just wanted to be very basic. I'm not a fan of this knife at all. Okay, you can actually tell that the knife blade itself, if we could just turn it, is bent over the years. It just doesn't give me a lot of, I don't like the way it feels. I'm just not a big fan of it. This is my second version. I really like this one, especially when I'm cutting a block of cheese on the recliner. I mean,
cutting a block of cheese on the recliner.
That's my go-to. And then this right here is my number 1 knife. I absolutely love it. I love the sharp edge. I love the length. You guys can see just in the hand. It's very straight. It's got the straight edge. I can hold it and control it very well. Now you're going to hear people say how you hold a knife is important, and that's a whole nother class. Okay, when you're talking about like taking skins off of apples, I'm going to show them one little secret that I've learned along the way. We get into cutting classes later, okay? But I like the ability to sometimes choke up, just like in baseball, right? The more you choke up on the blade, the more you have sturdiness, balance, feel, control, okay? Some chefs out there will use their thumb as a guide because you can't puncture past your thumb, right? So if you just take this and just work your way around, you're using the thumb as a guide. Now that can come from a core of an apple. I don't even know what that is. From whatever.
That's a blood orange.
Right. And you can see the difference in the tips, how it would be difficult with this one to do the same thing. Okay. But that's why I like this one, because this is almost a combination of the 2 blades. Okay. It's pointy at the end, and I can do the same thing. I can choke up on it if I wanted to. I can use my thumb as a guide, and I can just come around and core it. And you got the same thing. Plus you've got the length if you wanted to. Okay, to cut through most things. Celery, carrots, onions, you name it. I'm gonna refer to this orange a lot today because I want you guys to feel comfortable when you have something in your hand, because that's what ultimately it's all about. It's comfort in your hand, okay? And that's why I actually chose the knives that I have. So we went over the paring knives. You guys understand the difference. This is why I like it. It's a combination. So
this is your favorite. So
because it's a combination of these 2.
Maybe we'll link your favorites down below.
That's fair, okay?
Because they probably don't need all the knives.
When it comes to fillet knives, or boning knives. Like I said, I've had this one for years. This is my dad's favorite because you can tell mine versus dad's because mine is bigger because the fish I catch is bigger. We were actually probably together 10 years before I had this knife. And like I said, this knife right here is so new, I haven't even had a chance to use it yet. What you get with a fillet knife, you get the bendability, right? This is how you go around the curve of the backbone of a fish. You can get in between and do a French cut when you're talking about, you know, like a pork loin or French chops on lamb, right? It's the same technique, the same idea. You're just using a different tool to use the job, okay? So as small as this knife is compared to that knife, just about the same blade length, okay? But this has way more flexibility and bend in it, okay? And this is a lot sturdier, okay? It's a lot it's backboned. I call the backbone this right here, the tang, okay? It's a lot thicker, so you wouldn't get that flexibility with it. These are used very, very, very rarely. Matter of fact,
Very rarely.
they're only used when I think I need them. You don't need those to start out, okay?
Unless you're a fisherman and you fillet a lot of fish.
And
maybe.
honestly, with technology, we fillet a ton of fish with electric knives now and then finish them off with a small, with this right here. With like the rib cage and the little extras and all that stuff. Very rarely do I actually take a fish apart with my actual large fillet knife. We're going to get down to the chef's knives 101, the universal. The one thing I'm not going to talk about today is the different types of metals, because if you're in this video, then you're very, very, very basic. If you want to know more about the different types of metals, so when you're talking about metal types, you got Japanese, you got German, you got carbon steel. They all have their pros and cons. When you talk about carbon steel, sometimes they can rust. They're a lot more to maintain, but they hold an edge very, very, very well. When it comes to Japanese, typically they're a little more brittle. They're more liable to break. They don't have a thicker backbone. They're a little bit thinner. When it comes back to the base right here, those two are meticulously, once they're done correct, very, very, very sharp. When it comes to German steel, typically that's what we have today. That's when you get into your more all standard type of knife. It's more universal. It's less prone to any chipping or damaging or anything like that. You don't have to worry about rust. And it holds an edge very well, but it's what you cut with it and how you maintain it that you really keep a great edge. Okay, so I'm going to show you just basically these three options right here. I was mentioning size earlier. I absolutely hate this knife. This, matter of fact, it's a knife that I very, very, very seldom use.
That's the one I like because it's smaller.
And
It's
ironically,
less intimidating.
she's used it 3 times her whole life.
That's not true.
And this is her favorite knife. Okay, so we're gonna set that to the side because I don't like it and she loves it. These two right here are used almost every single day in my kitchen repertoire, regardless of what it is. You can still come in with a good chef's knife and you're just gonna follow that backbone, that pith right down the edge. You're not worried about how long the blade is, okay? You're just focusing on about that much of the blade, okay? And just right inside there. And eventually this orange is gonna be ready to go.
Ready. It is a blood orange. I know, we should have picked a prettier piece of fruit.
They understand. All right. Now, when it comes to chef's knives, what I say about a chef knife is almost universal across the board to any knife you handle from now on, okay? It's about balance in your hand. It's about feel. And it's about how the knife itself is balanced. When I chose the 4-star, it's because when I was taught the knives, that basically the knife is universally balanced left or right. You should be able to put your finger basically right there in the middle, and that shows that the knife is balanced, okay? Some knives out there have a full tang, which would be something like this, okay? And with that, the knife itself should rock to the back. You kind of notice how that keeps tilting that way?
Yep.
It's right on the verge. It's still considered an equal knife, but with the full tang, that means your blade runs all the way through the handle. It's heavier in the handle, okay? So when you pick it up, some knives are actually blade heavy, which means if you held it like this, it would tip over like this. Some knives are considered very heavy in the handle, And some say it helps with like carpal tunnel, because when you're a chef and all you do is cut all day long, it's the little things that help your wrist relax. I prefer a balanced knife because I love the way it feels. That's something that I would recommend each and every person interested in this video, that once you pick out the idea of a knife that you're going for, you got to get to a place where you can put it in your hand, okay? It's got to feel good in your hand to use it, so you're confident in using it.
So suggestions like Williams-Sonoma, you can try
Sola
out the
Tabla.
knives. Obviously, they're more expensive.
Well, I mean, it's not about that. You can catch them on sale. I mean, don't let the price of a knife scare you from buying a good knife, right?
Because it'll last you forever.
Now with social media, just to skip ahead just a hair, this is where I got the cleaver from social media. I could have bought the cleaver to match my set, but I held it in my hand and I thought it was weaker than what I wanted. Just didn't feel good. So I've got this cleaver, and depends on if you buy it full price or on sale. I mean, I absolutely love it, and I use it quite often. It's definitely, if I can do this without damaging anything, it's definitely blade heavy. Like, it don't matter how you do it, it's just blade heavy, okay? What that does to me is, it still gives me confidence that I could rest it in the back part of my hand, and you're still doing the same thing. You're only focusing on a little part, okay?
Obviously, you would never use a cleaver to peel an orange.
They do. When I say they, I mean, like, you know, the people that use those often. So
You don't really use that often.
Me, no, but it's a different part of training. They use that way more often. They can do cucumbers. You know, yes, that is that's in the Asian or Japanese culture. This is an everyday knife. Like, they don't. This is, once they pick this up, very few times they actually put it back down. All right. Let's just focus right here, because I think this is the biggest part of anybody's question about knives. If I butcher this word, I'm sorry. It's Santoku. That's when your blade looks like this, okay? If you notice, the blade is actually different, okay? Do you understand the difference in the rocking motion when you lay that blade flat? How much more area is available here? That's because this blade is meant to stay on the cutting board and rock, okay?
Oh.
With this knife, you don't have as much, but it's still designed to do that, okay? You're still going to be able to rock. It's just a difference in the blade. This is more, even though it's still German, this is more of a Japanese style, and this is more traditional. These knives right here come in basically here all the way up to like a good, I would say 12, I wish I knew how long my slicer was, basically 12 inches. I've never been a big fan of the longer chef knives. I've always enjoyed the 8 to 10 inch blades myself. This is why I don't like the small blade. My wife says she likes it because it's smaller and she's timid when it comes to knives. When you go somewhere and you try out a knife, okay, and you hold it correctly, I don't know if you can actually tell, but my knuckle is higher than the blade tang itself. Okay, I don't know if we can actually get that.
Yeah.
So when I'm rocking back and forth, my knuckles are actually hitting the board, and it's not comfortable. Like, every single time my knuckles would do this. So if I don't use it as a rocker, then I'm going to end up using it as like a shaver or something like that. Well, if you're going to use a shaver or a slicer, I've already got that knife available, which is why I don't use this knife often. So just show you over here. You see how the blade's hitting and not my hand?
Ah, boy, I'm learning a lot in this video, honey.
Okay, that's why I don't prefer that knife, which is why it's important for you as a person to be able to hold that knife itself. And what do you like? Do you like the balance forward? Do you like the balance rear? Or do you like a more neutral, balanced knife?
I have a question.
Yes. If I had to pick one.
Well, no. What is the benefit of having like the ridges on this Santoku?
Some people say it allows air gaps to come through there, and the onions, the tomatoes, the items that you're slicing doesn't stick to it as much. And so when you're slicing like this, it naturally falls off, so it's not in your way as much.
With this one.
Yes.
This one.
I don't feel like that at all. Not at all.
So basically, they're interchangeable. In what situation would you use this one versus the other one?
There's not. I use both of them as equally as I can. I can show you here just the way the knife is built. This has more of a thicker base, a thicker body, a thicker handle right here, and you can see this does not. See how that just meets flush and there's nothing there? See the difference? So how that fits in your hand matters, okay? Everything is about feel and comfort, okay? We also have this paring knife here, which is very similar to this one. And I actually bought it for my sister-in-law's wedding. It was like a buy one, get one free or something like that. She'll never know. She doesn't watch my videos. And at the time, their kitchen was green and orange. And so they had a ton of green and orange items. And so these knives work perfectly in the knife block. This is sharp as a dang razor. I use it quite often because it mirrors this knife right here.
And this is very inexpensive.
This one was.
Yeah, the green
compared
one.
to this one. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's a whole lot of knives. So if someone was just starting out, because we've gotten a lot of comments about people that really want to get like a nice, you know, a few nice knives, like what would be your top 3 or 4 out of all of those, your top most recommended, most used 3 or 4?
All right, let's take a quick look. The chef knives to me really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which profile you go for, okay? I use these both equally. I probably actually use this a hair more. I just enjoy it a little bit more, but that's splitting hairs, okay? I absolutely love this paring knife. I love the design. I love the length. I love the versatility of it. I would say a good paring knife that's in somewhere of that type of shape, okay? Third would be a thinner type slicing knife. Now, a slicing knife is not this one, although it's considered a slicing knife. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I would probably prefer this one over my fillet knife because this does have a little flexibility since the blade is so long. It's a thinner profile blade. And in the right circumstance, this can get you farther than this can. So when we're doing a prime rib or a slicing turkey, or we're doing something that has to have a little bit meat behind it like a brisket, then I would pick up this knife. So this knife is just a little bit more versatile than an actual fillet knife. So this right here is probably, I would recommend anybody starting out, my best 3. And however color combination you want, do you want the high end, do you want the low end? These 3 types of knives right here are a great way to get started. Then you're going to add to it. Heck, our knife block we've added to. The original knife block that we had was smaller, and we've had to upgrade our knife block. So I've given away my other knife block. Yep, steak knives and all that stuff. So since this video is so long, I do think there's some good information there about the basics. I did overstep a lot, or not talk about a lot of things, because I just want to break it down to the basics. If you guys are interested in the sharpening video about how I perceive sharpening and how sharpening should be done, then you guys can comment below and we can make that video number 2, okay? I just didn't want to keep talking and talking and talking in an 85-minute video. Yeah.
So we'll do sharpening in another video, and care and maintenance.
So you guys keep asking the questions. Hopefully we can create a video about it, because that's what the family is all about. When you guys have trouble, I love to be able to reach out, and on this platform like this, it's a great way to answer a bunch of questions all in one. So if you guys are interested, we have a join button down below. It's a membership program. We thank each and every one of you for taking time for doing so. Check us out on the Griddle Group on Facebook, where we talk about griddles. And honestly, I get a lot of questions about knives and smokers, you name it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button, pound the notification button, share it with your friends. Peace.